From beautiful East Tennessee in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains, you are listening to the Sherry Voluntary Show, and I sure do appreciate you spending your time with me today. My guest is someone that you may not know by name, but you probably know some of the work that he's been affiliated with and responsible for. So Jason Bassler, did I pronounce that right, Jason?
You did, and correct. Yeah, you did. Absolutely.
Great. So welcome to the show. And he's responsible for things like the Free Thought Project, Police the Police, V is for Voluntary, and End the Drug War. So I'm sure with my audience is very familiar, especially with the Free Thought Project and Police the Police. Those were two big pages that people got a lot of good information from. So we just, I wanted to have you on to talk a little bit about this recent Facebook purge and the kind of implications that that's had on you personally and how you see it in a wider scope. But also, I wanted to first talk to you a little bit about where you're from and what got you into activism. What made you do this?
Sure. Well, first of all, just wanted to say thank you for having me on. Wasn't sure if this was going to happen. I know I canceled on you twice, and I know last week you were sick.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we actually made it happen.
Me
and
too.
I apologize for not being on the video. Actually, just had a couple beers last night. I don't look so great, so I think it'd probably be better just to do the audio.
Sure,
but,
no problem.
Yeah. So. My story is somewhat unique, I guess, for libertarians and ANCAPs. I'm from California, otherwise known as California, and specifically, yeah, I know probably some cringes already from your audience. But
my dad used to call it the land of fruits and nuts.
There's a lot of truth to that. The Bay Area specifically is definitely chock full of progressives and liberals, and they kind of run rampant. So it's definitely strange that I'm originally from that area, but I live in Sacramento now. So I'm a little away from that.
Sure.
But yeah, so my story, I was always somewhat counterculture just growing up in the Bay Area. That's like one thing that's very prevalent.
Sure.
That doesn't always translate into politics necessarily, or at least morals and principles and beliefs and whatnot. So I didn't really know where I stood. I was certainly anti-war. When the 2003 Iraq bombing started, I was out there in the streets of San Francisco protesting. And so I've always kind of had an anti-war stance and always kind of knew that there was something wrong with the system. But it wasn't until 2011, Occupy Wall Street, when I really started seeing what it looked like in person, by video, watching people protest during the Occupy movement. And more or less, that's kind of what the catalyst was to get me started with everything. And once again, I know that's probably kind of a strange beginning point, but I think for me, it was just seeing other people who were activated, who were motivated, who were actually doing something to protest. And it kind of made me realize that I didn't really have a great understanding of what specifically was going on. Mm-hmm. So I kind of knew I needed to do some more research and really try to understand the current political climate. And at the same time, I was also watching the protests and seeing just rampant police brutality. The police were very heavy-handed during Occupy.
Yeah.
They were throwing around and beating protesters, young and old. I mean, there was like old women out there that were getting pushed around and clobbered. So at that point, it was a rude awakening to a certain extent. I didn't realize that police had already escalated, to that point in society where they had that authority and they could literally just get away with it.
Right.
So that's kind of what motivated me to get into the police accountability realm and start Police the Police.
Great. So was that the first of your pages?
That's good. No, actually, the very first page I had was a page called Get Involved, Do You Live Here? And if anybody's familiar with that page, or I guess it's gone now because Facebook erased it, but you could literally watch the progression of my ideologies and my principles and beliefs and worldviews kind of over the year or two that I had that page. And, it was a good starting point for me. Police to Police was the second page I created in 2012.
Yeah, I think, you said it's kind of an odd place to have come from, the Occupy, Wall Street type area. But I think that the Occupy movement, if you will, I think it had a lot to offer, actually, about at least people questioning the system, questioning why they're able to do some of the things they would do. I read the I guess platform that they had, and I was in agreement with a lot of the things that they were concerned about. And so I think that for thoughtful people who are really kind of trying to find some solutions and change some things, that's as good a place to start as any, especially if you question what you're doing and why, and you learn more and more. I think that's a really, honestly, a great place to start. I imagine that many more people have come to sort of a libertarian view of the world from that movement as well. And they weren't wrong in a lot of the stuff that they were concerned about, corporate cronyism and banking problems and all of those kinds of things that really are an issue. And as far as the police, yeah, I think you were in the same situation that I know I was. I wasn't on that end of the spectrum. I was more of a neocon and in my younger days, and I started to really question, why things were the way they were. Why could the government just do the things that it wanted and its agents get away with things? And once you start to do that, if you're really interested, it's going to lead you down a path that you may not actually like. But I think a lot of people are walking around every day and think that, the police are the good guys and that they're only there to serve us and help us. And honestly, that's just not the case in the way that they're trained to view the public. So I think those are a lot of valid arguments that you brought up. So good for you for getting involved and getting started.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Occupy manifesto and the things that they were trying to raise awareness about, I don't think it was all incorrect. In fact, I think a lot of it was actually spot on. I think it was just the solutions to how they wanted to correct some of these issues. I think that's later on I figured out was kind of the problem, because more or less Occupy kind of leans left. It's kind of got that progressive stance to it. And I think they want more government, rather than less. So we have that kind of, opposition there in beliefs. But I agree with you. And I think that's kind of why protests are still important, although I've kind of gone in the other direction with like social media activism. Sure. But I think there is certainly some validity to having a visual representation of, a mass of people who all share the same belief. And yeah, I mean, just me personally is a great example. That's what inspired me to try to get involved and learn more about what's going on. So I certainly agree. And I think protests have their place. Sometimes it feels a little bit silly standing on a street corner with a sign,
right?
And you're lucky if you reach maybe like 5,000 people who happen to be driving by, when you can make a post and literally one of the, worst posts you make could reach that many people, so it's, right. I don't know. I guess it kind of depends on how you're trying to plant seeds, but yeah. And then just to touch on the other thing you said, I think you're totally right about people having this idea about police being the good guys in society. And I think that stems from, well, not only indoctrination, but it stems from this belief that we need these people in society. We need some type of protectors or whatever. Right. And I think people make this terrible, tragic mistake that they don't realize that it's a monopoly. And that's where most of the issues stem from. I mean, yes, of course, in modern day society, we're going to need protection and security services. But when we give that control to a monopoly who grants themselves, they have the funding to do whatever they want, right. Via taxation, there's no mechanism for them to ever be effective or efficient with their policies. There's no incentive for them to ever be accountable or to have oversight. So these things are all huge issues. And, after spending 6 years now focusing on police brutality, I mean, I could tell you that's the main problem. It boils down to being an economic issue. And a lot of people don't want to see that, especially, the Black Lives Matter movement and a lot of the left who are on board with police accountability, but they don't necessarily understand that it's at its core an economics issue.
Yeah, and that, they have the monopoly of the state behind them. So the laws that they are enforcing are the ones that are made by their bosses. And when they are, supposedly held accountable, when they get charged on the rare occasion with something, they usually get off or get a lighter sentence because they've got this huge conflict of interest that, when you go into a court, everybody in there is a cop, basically, the judge, everyone, because they're enforcing the laws of that system who makes the laws in order to protect itself. So many people don't realize that a lot of the laws that are on the books are actually more to entrap you and tangle you up than they are to restrict government in any way. It just gives them more and more power in our lives. So, yeah, I definitely hold a very sympathetic view with that. And there's so many different things people could do that would offer a better solution to protection and to just that kind of. I think the difference between like a peacekeeper, a peace officer, and a law enforcer, like there's nothing wrong with having a peace officer that you could maybe call when there's something you need. But to have these law enforcers that are just constantly walking around trying to trap people and generate revenue for the state, that's a whole different thing. They're looking at everyone's a nail because they're all hammers. So there's definitely a difference in attitude about those things. But anyways, that said, to move on a little to this recent Facebook purge. And I know Free Thought Project, which was something I went to at least once or twice a week, if not every day. There were times I was there every day looking for things, especially when I had the radio show and we had to provide daily content. You guys were a great opposing voice to the mainstream media line. So I really appreciated the work that you guys did there. And I know so many other people did as well, as with Police the Police and your other pages. So I know this last purge, I think, did every social media platform you have, did that get shut down?
Pretty close to it. So on the same day, October 11th, 2018, this year, we had all of our pages from Facebook removed. There wasn't a single page that I had started that was actually spared by Facebook. And in that same day, we also had Twitter take down both our Police the Police and the Free Thought Project accounts as well. So, it's certainly suspicious. A lot of people say that there's nothing there and maybe it's, just a coincidence. But to me, two different social media companies removing us on the same day,
right.
I don't know, something about that just doesn't sit right with me. And, I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on.
Right.
But what's the chances, right?
Yeah.
That same day, we also got a YouTube strike on one of our videos from 2015 that had been up for 3 years. And that was kind of just random. I don't know if that was included with this whole purge. I'm sure YouTube could have easily just removed our account, just like Twitter did if they really wanted to. But to answer your question, I did get about 2 weeks after all that, and go ahead and laugh, but I had a Tumblr account since 2012. And, I only just posted like political stuff, the same kind of stuff I would post on the Free Thought Project, or Police the Police.
You just read
it wasn't
the articles,
like a personal
right?
blog or anything. And that got taken down as well. And this was before they started talking about how they were going to remove porn, and Tumblr's kind of all of a sudden totally changing their business strategy. And so I don't know. To me, it is strange that all these social media platforms have removed us. And of course, they're always like vague explanations. There's really no context or depth. And the same day that we were removed by Facebook, they also removed over 800 pages and accounts.
Yeah.
And they gave us all this very blanket statement that, who knows if it applies to me or if it applied to the next guy or whatever, it's, like I said, intentionally vague. So it's been really challenging to try to pick up the pieces again. It's hard to even get motivated. We had close to 6 million fans with all of our pages put together.
Yeah. Wow.
And it just takes a long time to create that kind of audience. A lot of work. I mean, every day we were creating fresh content, fresh videos, fresh memes. We would write 5 to 6 articles every day. We worked 7 days a week, long hours. We were dedicated and committed to this, and in many ways we were living out the American dream. We started from nothing. We started from scratch, became entrepreneurs. We were connecting and networking with other groups and organizations. I mean, we literally did everything we could to try to get the word out and spread the word about peace and liberty, and apparently that's a threat to the establishment. I mean, obviously we were being effective. So
yeah, I think people who think that there's nothing there, that it was just a coincidence, just aren't paying attention, because that's definitely a coordinated effort. Like those platforms don't just all on the same day decide to remove every single, identical persons from each other's platforms. So there was definitely something there. And a lot of, I mean, I remember when this happened, I was really upset about it. And, I had made some posts about it, and I kept getting, well, they're a private company and they can do what they want. And you would think that that's true in a normal circumstance, but they're not really private, because I know with Facebook, they've accepted money from the state to sell our information. So that's not really private, in my opinion, any business. Yeah. And that may go for many other businesses other than social media. But when you accept money from the state, you're beholden to the state. And Google, I know, is helping develop some things with, I think, the Department of Defense. And so they're in bed with these people, and that's cronyism. That's not a free market in any sort of way. If they were just some company that said, we don't want your content here, I'm totally okay with that. But this is about them directing people's speech and the information that they have access to, and that's what's so dangerous about it, I think, is they gave like these, from what I heard from others, were community standards had been violated, or they suspected you of spamming, or were accusing you of that. And, fine, give me examples. Show us what we did. But there were no examples given. There was no way to kind of go to them and plead your case. It was just, we're done. You're done. And when they allow for you to build that kind of network that you had on your platform, and then have no concern for just deleting that all of a sudden, I really think that that's a very poor business move. And I know that many in, say, the libertarian sphere are looking for other alternatives. Right now, I'm sort of stuck with Facebook, sad to say, but I do have other social media platforms that I'm not very active on. But I'm waiting for this momentum to get to where we can move from these platforms that certainly don't support us, and that we don't support in their way that they would look at our content and call that, something they don't want on their platform. So I really think that it's important for those things to be developed so we can move out onto them and still have access to people, and getting that, not the state party, line, corporate media type information, and that's all there is. So I think it's really important for those platforms like, say, Minds, or I guess MeWe is the same, where they don't prohibit certain content. So I think right. You're right that it's definitely coordinated, in my opinion.
Yeah, I use the analogy. I tell people, okay, so imagine like you have this opportunity and this invitation to create and build your dream car in this mechanic shop that has all these tools. They have people who are going to come by the shop and see your car. They basically give you everything that you need, and all you have to do is build this dream car of yours. So we did that. We spent 6 years building our dream car, and yeah, we got to drive it around for about a year and a half before they started really putting the throttles on us and shadow banning us and censoring us every which way. But then all of a sudden they take away your keys and they're like, nope, sorry, like this is our dream car. You don't get it anymore.
Right.
Sorry about all of that, hard work you put in. We're not going to give you any explanations as to why. We're just going to, seal you into our garage, and that dream car that you spent 6 years building, oh, too bad. And you're right. There is a catch-22. There's so many users on Facebook that not only are we trying to reach normies by planting seeds with this type of information, but we also, this is the only way we could really drive traffic to our websites to be able to maintain our business, to maintain our payroll, to be able to pay our writers, to be able to pay our social media, the people helping us with social media and everything. So in many ways, we're still stuck on Facebook as well. We were kind of reluctant to create our 2.0 pages. By the way, any of your audience that are still interested in supporting us, you can, type in the Free Thought Project 2.0 or Police the Police 2.0, and we have our new pages up.
Great.
But I don't want to be on there. I don't want to be on a platform that doesn't want us. I don't want to be on a platform that spies on us, that is inherently partnering with, front groups like the Atlantic Council, who are nothing more than a front group for big pharma, for the military industrial complex. And in May of this year, Facebook actually announced through their newsroom that they were partnering with the Atlantic Council. And I'd highly suggest anybody who's listening, if they want to know more about that, just put in a quick Google search and you'll realize that these are people who are not any friends of freedom or information exchange. They were purposefully were bragging about when they took us down. I mean, one of their board members was on Twitter, and this is something we've covered as well, but they were on Twitter bragging about how they took us down. Yeah. And it's, it's certainly frustrating because, years of my life were invested into this. But on the flip side, everything that happens has a reaction and a consequence. So we are even more motivated now to keep continuing to spread the word. We are even more motivated now to do everything we can to fight back. And we've actually created a summit for next month, a Meeting of the Minds Roundtable Summit for about 60 different social media activists, for journalists, for influencers. And we're going to all put our minds together to try to figure out exactly the best way to move forward in this age of censorship and how we could be sustainable on the internet without having to worry about constantly if our funding is going to be pulled, whether it be from PayPal or these different advertising companies or just social media companies themselves. So hopefully a lot of good will come from that. I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to be in Houston next month. And I personally, I'm going to try to make the push for everybody to go over to minds.com because yes, there's probably about 50 other small social media alternatives that are kind of springing up right now. But I believe that Minds has the most to offer right now. They have the most momentum. They actually just got $6 million in a funding round. So they're actually putting all that money towards coding to really upgrade their features and functions of Minds. So I think that's the way to go. They're decentralized, they're crypto-based, they're open source. These are all things that we're going to want in the future for social media.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And something you were saying about this whole, your dream car and how they can just rip the rug out from under you, basically, after you've put in so much work and effort, and just you have nothing left of that. It's sort of like a soft coup, not of the government, of the state or anything, but of people and their work. And that's not being a very good entrepreneur, in my opinion. That's not them being a very good business to their customers, because we are customers of Facebook, whether, we want to admit it or not. So I think it's a really, not only just a bad business move, but I think the thing that might come out of this that's good is that, maybe a lot of more people woke up to the fact that these things are actually happening, that there are large major corporations who want to sway people's opinion, and they want to do that by the types of information that you're able to view. And that's on the left and the right, but the left, left, right, it tends to control the media type for the most part. Like Google, I know, was talking about, I don't know if they have yet, but changing it where when you type in something, certain pages are put to the bottom, no matter how much support they have, because they don't want you to view. They did do it under the purview of violence and racism and those kinds of things. But really, it's about speech, because people have the right to be wrong, and people also have the right to find the information that they're looking for, or to at least, not be told that they're getting one service and they're really not getting that. What they're getting is a filtered and directed service. So just as if people know that, that's one thing, but they don't tell you that up front when you go and do your Google search, that there's content that we have suppressed. So I think, if anything, hopefully this will wake people up to the fact that there is basically a war for your mind going on, and what you'll allow in your life. And just look at all the state intervention we have in our lives now. We've allowed quite a lot. So where are people going to draw the line? And hopefully people like you, and to a smaller extent myself, are helping people to draw that line further and further back away from the state, and try and regain and protect what we have, and regain what we've lost. So you mentioned the meeting of the minds that you're having, and with Derek Brose of the Conscious Resistance Network, who does a lot of great work as well. So I'm really looking forward to see what comes out of that, and what kind of solutions you guys come up with. I think that's really proactive to start figuring out how to network with others in the community, and also kind of figure out where you're going to go from here. So besides Minds and the social media, I don't know, is there any other avenue you see that you're able to get that kind of reach on, or at least some semblance of that kind of reach?
Right now, unfortunately, no. And that's why it's so critical to make this push. And like I said, there's MeWe, there's quite a few different other social media platforms. But if we all keep going off in different directions, we're never going to be able to create that momentum. And not only that, the content producers need to be on one platform. And we've got sucked in by Facebook through the reach. And as we both know, as content producers, content is king, so we need those people to migrate over to Minds. And I believe with that, and with the money that they're investing with all the technical upgrades and everything, there will be some significant reach that will be, I don't think it's going to take longer than a year and a half.
Good.
And to touch on what you were saying before, you're absolutely right. I'm not a fan of Alex Jones at all, but he's correct by naming his organization InfoWars, because that's exactly what it is. And these companies, they think they're so big that they're too big to fail, and I'd love to prove them wrong. I'm going to do everything I can, within the next few years to prove them wrong. I'm not going to take this lying down. That's why we started this meeting of the minds. That's one of many things I have going on right now. I'm even talking to a lawyer because Facebook also took our money. They took over $3,000 for page likes, for boosting posts.
Wow.
And that's not a ton of money. It's significant compared to other organizations. That's not much at all, but it's also fraudulent because they gave us, they took our money, but then they took away our pages. Yeah. So
they didn't give you the service
we have
that
a lawyer
you paid
who
for.
seems pretty interested. He's actually representing PragerU right now against Google, because PragerU, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is like the conservative libertarian outlet. And they feel like they're getting unfairly censored by YouTube. And YouTube presents itself as like a public platform, even though they are a private company. So it'd be really interesting to see in the future how this plays out with this lawsuit that's going to happen here soon.
Yeah. It is kind of I guess legally it's a tough area, and one that is still being worked through. But, if you're going to be a private business, then be a private business, and don't coordinate with the government, don't coordinate and take money from them, and then try and also call yourself private. So, or present yourself as a place where people can have an opinion, any opinion they want. Just be more upfront about it. So I the last thing I guess I wanted to talk about was something you mentioned too, is the supporting content creators. It's really important. Like, I know a lot of people want to start podcasts and blogs and pages and things, which is great. But I think for those who, are wondering what they can do, if there's someone that's doing good work, support them in any way you can. If that's just by sharing their content, that's great. If you can support them financially, that's even better, because like you said, it takes a lot of time. Like I'm the same as you, like it's basically 7 days a week that I'm involved in doing things to promote my, business, promote the podcasts and different things that I've got going on, and to develop content for that, and guests and things of that nature. So it is really important, and I think maybe people don't understand the importance of that support. You don't have to start something in order to be a part of the good work that people are doing. So I think that's really just, I guess, the last thing that I wanted to say. And just to kind of round things out here, Jason, where can people find you, like your websites, and if they do want to support you, do you have a Patreon, or where can people go?
So we basically are on every social media platform there is, Instagram, Tumblr, Google+. I mean, Steam it. Me, we, Minds, we're all over the place. I personally have a Twitter account that you could follow, Jason Bassler 1. I just started it. It's very slow moving right now.
Sure.
Obviously, our website, thefreethoughtproject.com. We've also just started doing a podcast. I think we're 6 deep now. We've done 6 different podcasts. So definitely give us a support over there. Give us a good review and follow us, subscribe. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, unfortunately right now, we're reaching the most people through Facebook, and that's just kind of the way it goes. But I would love to change that. I would love for everybody who's listening to this to create a Minds account right now, and not only create it, but like Sherry was just saying, like, go through your news feed, like some of these people's posts, comment on them. That's helps them get more views. Yeah. And it just gives them support. You can't imagine how good it feels when somebody just gives you a little bit of positive feedback for one of your memes or an article that you wrote. I mean, that alone will keep somebody going for a couple weeks until, of course, they get shit on by the internet and all the vitriol and hate and anger and everything that comes along with it, because that's just the way the internet is. But positive support is such an important, factor in all this. And I'm really glad that you actually brought that up, because it is crucial.
Yeah,
it really is.
It is. And like you were saying, the mental boost that it gives you, because we do get beat up on a lot. And it's, you have to develop a thick skin, but it hurts when people are mean to you. Like, it's not that we're not people anymore, or that, whatever, but these ideas are radical to people. And I think sometimes we forget how radical, some of the things we say are, and we say them in such a flippant way. Like, taxation is theft is one good example. I know a lot of people are tired of that. But when we say that to someone who's never heard it before and they're totally indoctrinated in the system, that's really radical to them. And it sounds crazy. Like, they really, and there's nothing wrong with shaking people up, but I think we just get so comfortable in talking about these things that we forget that it's pretty radical. We're radicals, and that we're trying to really change things. So we want to reach out to people, and Facebook is such a great way to do that. And hopefully, like you said, I'm going to go, and I have an old Minds account. I probably will have to make another one, because I haven't been on there in years. But I'm going to do that myself and start moving over there. I know Derek has done that as well. He's not posting on Facebook anymore. The Conscious Resistance has some stuff still on there, but I think we have to lead by example as well, and start putting our money where our mouth is, and moving off of these platforms as much as possible, so that we can
absolutely
get people to go over there, so that we can keep our content out there. And I wanted to thank you for coming on the show, Jason. Are there any last thing you wanted to say?
Yeah, just really quick. And speaking of putting your money where your mouth is, Minds is great at that, because they actually allow you to transfer tokens to other users. And the tokens are Ethereum based, so you could buy them off chain as well. But you, with every token that you have, you get 1,000 additional views that are boosted into the news feed. So like I said, I feel like there's just a lot of really great things going on with Mind right now.
Great.
And there's some tech going on over there that will really help people who are just starting out to get their content seen. So
cool. Great.
Definitely check it out. And thank you so much for having me on, Shay. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And guys, if you enjoyed this content, you can feel free to support it. And also that the Sherry Voluntary Show is a product of Little L Productions with other great shows like The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley, Sports Ball with Mike and Alan, and Godarchy. So go check that out and see if there's something you like over there. There's some great programs. Until next time, guys. Peace.